What's up, guys? It's Eric from Rare Candy, and today we're back with another deck and battle video here on PTCGO for you. Today we're going to be taking a look at Mega Gardevoir EX, but before we get too into the deck profile, I just want to give a quick little apology for the lack of video content over the past week or so. I've actually been getting over being sick, and due to being sick, my voice was all messed up. I've been coughing up a storm. I just could not record commentary. I tried and it was pretty bad, so I have to just wait a week or so to get better. And then Marcus, his computer isn't working with PTCGO, or he's having problems, so he hasn't been able to put out video content in my place. That's why he hasn't been in recent videos either. But I'm better now, so um, everything should return to normal. But I just wanted to give a little clarification on the lack of activity lately. But anyways, so like I said, we're taking a look at Mega Gardevoir EX, and we've actually been, I think, covering this card pretty decently in recent memory. We even did a expanded look at the deck, featuring things like Dimension Valley, back before Dragonite EX got released. So if you want to take a look at that and see a different version of Mega Gardevoir, I'll be sure to put a link somewhere on the video or in the description for you guys to check out. But we are going to be taking a look at the Mega Gardevoir version for standard format now that Evolutions is released. So what's the deal with Mega Gardevoir? Why is it worth talking about? And that's going to be for a couple of reasons. It's one of these cool dual type cards that Steam Siege gave us. So it's part Fairy, part Psychic, which is actually great typing since it's Fairy. You knock out Giratina EX in one hit. Even though they do have that pesky ability, you can just play Hex Maniac and knock it out easily. So Giratina is pretty easy to play around. And also your part Psychics, that's great because you also hit Mega Mewtwo for weakness. And I think Gardevoir has kind of single-handedly, kind of made people a little wary of playing Mewtwo because this deck is starting to rise in popularity, especially now that Evolutions has given it some new tools that really take it to a new level. So that's kind of the first part what makes Gardevoir good. It's also, because of its typing, it resists Dark, which is debatably the best resistance that you could have in the game. I think Dark has been consistently one of the most popular decks since it's come out. So great resistance as well. It does have a pesky weakness to Metal since Mega Scizor is a deck. We've actually covered it before. And it might start to pop up a little bit more that Gardevoir is gaining some steam, no pun intended. But luckily, Mega Scizor, it pops up, but it's not the most popular deck currently. So the weakness is decent at least. But we're taking a look at it also for the attack Despair Ray. For a Fairy and Colorless Energy, it does 110 base damage, and you can discard as many bench Pokemon as you like, and you do 10 more for every Pokemon you discard. So the first reason that this is good is because it allows for you to play a very aggressive setup engine, similar to Mega Rayquaza, where you can bench multiple Shamans and multiple Hoopas and have a ton of bench sitters. But the great thing is you don't really have to worry about giving them up as easy prizes since you can just discard them with the Despair Ray attack. So not only do you have the luxury of having a super consistent engine, but you can discard all of the bench sitters and do more damage for doing so. So if you have a Skyfield and you discard seven bench Pokemon, you're doing 180 damage, which knocks out pretty much every non-fighting Fury Belted EX, other than maybe Zygarde and Wailord. So the attack is very strong. And previously, I honestly have not liked this card as far as taking one-hit knockouts go, just because you do have to commit to discarding your entire bench, and it can be kind of awkward to recover from that at some points. But now that Evolutions is out, we have Dragonite EX, which greatly helps out this deck's recovery options. So, like I said, Gardevoir's got some new tools that really take it to the next level. So we're playing 3 of those and also 4 of the standard Gardevoir EX. I am opting for a 2-2 split of the different ones. To be honest, I literally just don't own 4 of either one of these on PTCGO, so I just opted for the split. But they each have their own advantages. The main one most people, I think, favor to play is the Link Blast Gardevoir, So if both Pokemon have, or both actives have the same amount of energy, this attack does 100 damage, which is kind of nice because the attack only costs 2 energies, and there's a decent amount of 2 energy attackers, so it's a solid attack. And also, we are going to be taking a look at the Life Leap Gardevoir. We're playing 2 of these, so it does 20 and you heal equal to the amount of damage that you did. The healing isn't too relevant, but sometimes the 20 damage can be important, especially against maybe EXs that resist Psychic. The 20 damage can potentially make a difference there. So each one has, I think, their pros and cons. I don't think, honestly, I don't think it's too relevant which one you play. I haven't run into many situations where I was like, dang, I really wish I had this other Gardevoir. I will say this though, the other Gardevoir does a better job at knocking out Giratina EX. So it might be worth considering playing that one just for that alone. But anyway, so onto the actual engine. It's going to be similar to Mega Rayquaza, like I said. So we have 2 Hoopa EX, has the ability Scoundrel Ring. Whenever you bench it, you search your deck for 3 EXs. So this is cool because you can grab a couple Gardevoirs and a Shaman, or maybe like a Dragonite as well. So just a really cool card that helps you set up, and we can just discard this, like I said, with our Gardevoirs when we attack with them. So we're playing a whopping 4 Shaman, maxing it out, just because, like I said, we can bench these pretty recklessly, actually, since we don't have to worry about our opponent getting easy prizes on them. But we're playing Shaman for that awesome ability setup. Whenever you bench him, you draw until you have 6 cards in your hand. So yet again, like I said, we can bench as many of these as we want without fear of our opponent Lysandering them up to take easy knockouts. Then the rest of the cards are actually going to be new Pokemon from Evolutions. First is one Rattata has the ability Mischievous Fang. Whenever you bench this Pokemon, you may discard all tool cards attached to your opponent's active, which is really important actually because of Fighting Fury Belt. That's another reason I didn't previously care for this deck that much, because Fighting Fury Belt really prevents you from taking one-hit knockouts in a lot of cases. So if they had like a Fighting Fury belted Yveltal EX, for example, you couldn't knock it out in one hit. But now thanks to Rattata, you can fix those types of situations. So that's why Rattata is so good. And we can reuse this guy throughout the course of a game because of the different recovery options that we have. And the last Pokemon is going to be 2 Dragonite EX from the Evolution set. And that's going to be for this ability, Pull Up. Whenever you bench him, you can put 2 basic Pokemon from your discard into your hand. And that's so good because, like I said, with Mega Gardevoir EX, you do have to discard your bench. And sometimes, in order to take one-hit knockouts, you have to kind of overcommit to discarding more Pokemon than you would like. It might involve, discarding another Mega Gardevoir if you have to. So Dragonite really helps with the recovery in the late game. And also now that Parallel City is kind of popular in Standard, ever since the Steam Siege format, I think it's really been a staple in a lot of decks. Dragonite helps you more easily recover from being Parallel City. So Dragonite EX is so strong, and I think it's the card that really helps make this an all-around solid archetype and not just an anti-Mewtwo, anti-Yveltal deck. So onto our supporter cards, we're playing 3 Professor Sycamore, discard your hand and draw 7, and 1 N. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws equal to the amount of prize cards they have left. So that's only 4 draw cards in total, or 4 draw supporters. That might seem very low, but you have to remember this is an engine similar to Mega Rayquaza where you draw the bulk of your cards through abilities. So usually you don't need as many supporters just because you can bench, 4 Shamans in the course of a turn. You can draw through half your deck if you really want to. That's why there's not as much of a need for these draw-based supporter cards. But nevertheless, they are still important. We don't want to be stuck without a way to draw cards if we are ability locked or something like that. So that's why it's still important to run them. We're also playing 2 Lysander. Switch your opponent's bench Pokemon with switch one of their bench Pokemon with their active. So that's just good, lets you choose what you want to take knockouts on. 2 Hex Maniac. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, no Pokemon have abilities. And this is actually such an important card, I think. Mega Rayquaza is definitely one of this deck's absolute worst matchups. They 1-hit knockout you. You have to 2-hit knockout them. So in order for you to really stand a chance, you have to slow them down. So if you are lucky enough to go first, or even against any deck really, if you can have this nice aggressive first turn setup where you draw through, half your deck, like I was saying, get a couple Gardevoirs down, maybe energy, some Spirit Links, and end your turn by playing Hex Maniac, that is just so crushing against a lot of decks because most decks are reliant on things like Shaman to set up, and especially Mega Rayquaza, like I said, it's very important because it's not a good matchup unless you can stream Hex Maniacs throughout the course of the game, or at least at important points in the game. Okay, then we're also playing one Brock's Grit, so shuffle in any combination of Pokemon or basic energy cards from your discard into your deck. So just like Super Odd, but it's 6 cards instead of 3. So this, I think, is a nice replacement for Karen. Karen is great in Expanded because it helps shut down things like Night March and Vespiquen variants. But in Standard, I don't really see the benefit to playing Karen. I think Brock's Grit does a fine job in place of it, just because most times you really don't want to shuffle cards back into your opponent's deck. I definitely like Brock's Grit over Karen now that we have it. Oh, and another part to Hex Maniac, the other reason we are playing this is for Giratina EX because it shuts down Megas. So we need a way to deal with Giratina's annoying ability. So just a quick note there. Then we're also playing 4 versus Seeker just to reuse all of those supporters the most amount of time as possible. For Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards from your hand, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. This is so good in this deck because let's say you, maybe in the mid to late game, you've discarded some of your bench Pokemon with Gardevoir. You can Ultra Ball for a Hoopa EX to grab maybe a Gardevoir, Shaman, and a Dragonite EX. So that's 4 Pokemon already, but then you can play your Dragonite EX to grab maybe your second Hoopa and another Shaman out of your discard. So you can suddenly, for 1 Ultra Ball, refill your entire bench in just 1 turn. And again, that's kind of what makes Dragonite so powerful in this type of deck. It allows for crazy recovery in the late game. Again, I should be talking more about Ultra Ball, but it seems like I'm talking more about Dragonite. But Ultra Ball, yeah, just so strong here. Especially since we play the 2 Hoopa, we can usually Ultra Ball for essentially 4 cards instead of 1, at the least. For Trainer's Mail, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Pick a trainer card you find there, put into your hand. Just a solid general consistency booster. So we're playing a split between 1 Switch and 2 Escape Rope, which is basically just Switch, but it forces your opponent to switch as well. And most decks typically in Standard favor Floatstone as a method for retreating, but to be honest, in this type of deck, I think that standard switching cards like Escape Rope and Switch are much better because you're constantly discarding your bench with Mega Gardevoir. Whereas most decks, their Pokemon on their bench stay there unless they get knocked out, which is why Floatstone is good, because typically in most decks something gets knocked out. You can promote a Pokemon with Floatstone to have free retreat and then retreat as you want to. But like I said, with this deck, nothing's really going to stay on our bench to have Floatstone. So that's why standard switching cards are better in this type of deck. So we're playing 1 Super Odd, shuffle 3 basic Pokemon or energy from your discard into your deck. Just a nice form of recovery that doesn't involve playing a supporter like Brock's Grit does. 3 Mega Turbo, attach a basic energy from your discard to one of your Megas. So Gardevoir does have a 2 energy attack cost. So if we only have 1 Gardevoir set up and it gets knocked out, we need a way to ensure that we can quickly power up another one in 1 turn. So Mega Turbo helps out a lot with that. Okay, then we're also playing 4 Gardevoir Spirit Link just to make sure our turn doesn't end whenever we Mega Evolve, and 4 Skyfield. So each player can have 8 bench Pokemon. It's kind of what allows us to take these big 1-hit knockouts. And then just to round out the list, we're just playing 8 Fairy Energy here. We don't really need a large count just because we can recycle them with our Mega Turbos and Super Odd and all that type of stuff. So if you're looking at this deck, you might be thinking to yourself, well, essentially you just replaced Mega Rayquaza with a Mega Gardevoir line. So why not just play Mega Rayquaza since it can take 1-hit knockouts on almost everything, and Mega Gardevoir usually has to two-hit knockout things. If they play against a Mega deck or something. So the big reason why Mega Gardevoir is good, or that you might want to consider playing this instead of Mega Ray, is because you are less susceptible to a couple things. That's Parallel City. Parallel City really doesn't hurt you as badly as it does Mega Rayquaza, because you can still hit for 110, which is a great number to hit for, even if you don't discard anything from your bench. That two hits pretty much every relevant card in the format currently. But Mega Ray, it's capped out at only doing 90 damage, which is not as good. You have to three-shot things in a lot of cases. And also with Mega Gardevoir, you are not susceptible to special energy hate. So Giratina EX blocks special energy. A lot of decks run Enhanced Hammer. So it just has a couple of additional things going for it that I think make it a little bit more attractive to some players than Mega Rayquaza might look. But Mega Ray, like I said, it can more easily one-hit knockout stuff, but Gardevoir has less, I think, a less potential to be exploited by some of these disruptive cards. So that's why we're trying this out. But I'm going to switch over to the battle video. That way you can see how this card, or I'm sorry, this deck looks in action now that we have Dragonite EX. All right, guys, so it looks like our opponent is calling the coin flip, which we win, so that's always nice. We're definitely going to choose to go first with this deck, since we can't really attack on the first turn usually. We definitely want that extra turn to set up if possible. So we have a decent hand. If we can get an Ultra Ball, I think we'll be... Okay, cool. So we actually do top deck Ultra Ball. That'll be nice. Thin out some of these cards from our hand. That way we can grab a Hoopa and start thinning out our deck. Here I'm getting rid of the switch and the N. I think it's a little risky to get rid of the N. I maybe in hindsight should have done Mega Turbo, but we're hoping we can draw some cards with the Shaman that we have in our hands. We're gonna grab Hoopa probably. We're just taking a look through the deck, see what we have. Looks like we have a Skyfield prized. But here we're gonna play that Hoopa, use that Scoundrel Ring ability, and I'll probably grab maybe just 2 Gardevoirs since we already have a Shaman in hand. So yeah, we're gonna put that one Shaman back. That way we can draw more cards with this one Shaman that we already have. Okay, so we will set up for 3. Okay, so we do get a Spirit Link, an Energy, and another Shaman, so hopefully we can hit a draw support or something here. Okay, and we don't, so that's not that great. But we do have a Hex Maniac. I did purposely hang on to that because a first turn Hex is just so good against most of the decks currently in Standard because they rely on Shamans and Hoopas to get set up. So even though we're having a little bit of a slow start here, I think it'll be okay just because we are putting our opponent behind a little bit. Here, our opponent does use Crushing Hammer on us. Oh, but they do play N, so they will bail us out, which kind of works out. So we're playing against some sort of Garbodor deck. We still don't know. Okay, so we see Giratina. We see Magearna come down too. That's interesting. So this might actually be the Giratina Garbodor variant, if I had to guess. So that's interesting. But I feel pretty confident against Giratina just because we can Hex it and just easily knock it out. So we're going to play Skyfield, evolve into our Mega Gardevoir, probably Mega Turbo, and attach to power up this guy. Okay, and we'll play Shaman, draw up to 5 cards here. Well, drawing 5 cards, up to 6. And our hand actually looks pretty decent. I don't know if we would play anything else really. I guess we can, oh yeah, we do have a Gardevoir with a Spirit Link, so we do need to get out another Mega at the least. But I'm tempted just to leave some other stuff, like, yeah, like, I mean, I don't even know if we need the extra Gardevoir, but that's cool, I guess. So, and here we'll just Sycamore. And okay, so not really too much else we need to play down, so here we'll just Despair Ray, and we'll definitely get rid of some of these bench Pokemon. And, you know, take away some of those easy prizes like those Shamans off the board, get rid of those Hoopas, that way our opponent can't Lysander stall us. So, because even though Giratina has a lot of HP, we can just use Hex Maniac to attack it, and we hit it for weakness, so we don't need to discard any bench Pokemon. Okay, here our opponent is going to N us, which I guess I'm okay with. We still have a decent amount of cards left. that we can draw into. So here we have Mega Turbo, so we can just Mega Turbo that energy back and use Versus Seeker for Hex Maniac. Nice, so we can also get a manual attachment for the turn as well. That'll be nice. And like I said, I'll probably just use Versus Seeker for the Hex Maniac. We could play Trainer's Mail, but I really don't know what we would need. I'd rather just save it and potentially use it to dig a little deeper next turn to hit a draw supporter. But yeah, so here we'll just use Hex Maniac to knock out Giratina EX. So Giratina is normally great against Megas. It has that ability that prevents damage from it. But Hex Maniac with Mega Gardevoir is just so good, because your Mega only needs the 2 energies. You don't need to discard any additional bench Pokemon to knock out the Giratinas. But this Magearna could actually be a problem for us. Magearna EX, it is Steel type, so it will hit us for a weakness. It's not a card you normally see people attack with, but we might end up having to face against it here. Okay, so here we try to think what we're going to grab. I feel like it'd be better just to grab the Sycamore here, save the Versus Seeker for a Hex Maniac if we are forced to using it later. Hopefully we can get a Spirit Link down, that way we can Mega Evolve into another Gardevoir before we Sycamore this hand away. And what do we get here? What do we get? Okay, so an Ultra Ball. I really don't think we would want anything off Ultra Ball. I'm fine here just Sycamoring because I believe we still have Super Rod in the deck, so we can get this Mega Gardevoir back, and we play Brock's Grit as well. So okay, so yeah, I think Super Rodding is a decent idea. Here I'm just trying to decide, do we want to Escape Rope? But I feel like if we Escape Rope, our opponent's just going to promote Giratina, and we can't do anything at Giratina this turn because we've already Sycamored, so we can't play Hex. So I actually might opt just to leave the active up here, because Magearna will knock out a Mega no matter what. And I'd rather knock out the one with damage. That way we will have a fresh one, because Magearna's attack the following turn only does half the amount of damage. So if we would promote a fresh Mega Gardevoir here, it would knock it out, and then on the following turn it would knock out this already damaged one. So I think leaving the damaged one up is the right way to go here. What is really problematic here is it requires an insane amount of Pokemon to knock out this thing. Magearna has now effectively 220 hit points once you factor in resistance, because it has 160 hit points, 40 with the Fury Belt, so we need a lot of cards to actually knock this out. But if we can get our Rattata to knock off this Fury Belt, and maybe like a Dragonite or something to help start putting some cards back in our deck, we can kind of easily fill up our bench again just with the help of Dragonite. So I think this will require Skyfield, a full bench with our Rattata, to knock out this Mega Gardevoir. So can we do it? That's the big question here. So we have Versus Seeker. Just got to go for the Sycamore, but luckily our deck is pretty thin. Only 16 cards left, so we have a decent chance of drawing into the stuff that we need in order to win the game here. The big thing is Rattata. Okay, so we do get Rattata, so that will knock off the Fury Belt. And I think we actually have it because we can just Super Rod. Yeah, we're going to get rid of that Fury Belt. Then we're going to... We need to Super Rod. We need to get that Dragonite back in the deck for sure. So we need to leave a Hoopa and Shaman, I think, in the deck. Or in the discard for when we use Dragonite. So yeah, that seems fine to me. And here's what we discard. We get rid of probably a Skyfield and maybe an Escape Rope. Or maybe an Energy even? I don't know. Yep, so here we can just grab... What do you get here? Oh, and our opponent just concedes. So I'm actually not sure if we... I didn't do the math on how many basics we had, but I believe we would have had enough to actually get the knockout on the Magearna. But our opponent just, I think, saw that. They saw, oh, he Super Rodded the stuff back in his deck. He took off my Fury Belt, so I'm just going to concede. So yeah, guys, that's Mega Gardevoir, and we went against a Giratina EX deck. It walls against Megas. On paper, I feel like we should lose. And our opponent played Parallel City. Parallel City, limiting our bench size and playing a wall against the Megas. So that, I think, shows you how good Gardevoir is, especially now that Dragonite has been released. I think it adds a lot to this deck. Before, I was never a huge fan of this deck. I think it had a great Mewtwo matchup, but now I think with Dragonite, it allows for a lot of good recovery against all these different decks that play Parallel City. So I definitely love Dragonite in this deck. It definitely takes it to a new level. Yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look at Mega Gardevoir. I think it's definitely a contender, definitely one to keep an eye out for. Right now, Fort Wayne Regionals is actually going on as we speak, so who knows, this might even get a top spot. We'll just have to wait and see. But anyways, as usual, I appreciate you guys watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch over at rarecandytcg.com. And we will see you guys for the next one, okay?